Description edit. What dire warning from your parents turned out to be bullshit? Growing up, my parents had this one rule that they repeated constantly. Never ever talk to strangers. Not just the obvious stuff like don't get in cars with people you don't know. They meant literally never speak to anyone we hadn't been formally introduced to. My mom would panic if I so much as said hello to the mailman. She'd pull me inside and lecture me for 20 minutes about how dangerous strangers were, how they were all potential kidnappers, murderers, or worse. My dad was even more extreme. He'd drive me to school every day instead of letting me walk 6 blocks because I might encounter strangers along the way. He made me promise to never ask anyone for directions, never accept help from people I didn't know, never even make eye contact with strangers. They had all these horror stories about kids who disappeared after talking to the wrong person. They'd show me news articles about missing children and say this is what happens when you trust strangers. I was genuinely terrified of anyone outside our tiny circle of family and neighbors. In high school, this became a real problem. I couldn't make friends because I was too scared to talk to new people. I'd sit alone at lunch, too anxious to join conversations or introduce myself to classmates. My parents thought this was perfect. They said I was being smart and safe. College was a nightmare at first. I was supposed to live in dorms with complete strangers, eat meals with people I'd never met, participate in group projects with random classmates. Everything my parents had warned me against for 18 years. I called home crying after the first week, begging to transfer to community college so I could live at home. My mom was ready to drive up and get me immediately, but my roommate, this guy named Chris, overheard the conversation. After I hung up, Chris sat me down and asked what was wrong. I explained about the stranger danger rules and how uncomfortable I felt being around so many new people. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Dude, he said, how do you think people make friends? Everyone starts as a stranger. Your parents basically taught you to be afraid of the entire human race. That's not normal. He was right, but it took months to unlearn 18 years of conditioning. Chris introduced me to his friends, who introduced me to their friends. Slowly, I realized that most strangers weren't dangerous. They were just regular people living their lives. My sophomore year, I joined the debate team, had to talk to strangers constantly during competitions and tournaments. Not only did nothing bad happen, I actually got really good at connecting with new people. Started winning debates because I could read audiences and adjust my arguments. Junior year, I got an internship at a marketing firm downtown. The job required cold calling potential clients, attending networking events, basically talking to strangers all day long. Everything my parents had taught me to avoid. I was terrified the first week, but I needed the money. Turns out I had a natural talent for sales. I could strike up conversations with anyone, find common ground quickly, make people feel comfortable. Within months, I was the top intern. My boss offered me a full-time position after graduation, said my ability to connect with new people was exactly what they needed in business development. The job paid more than my dad made after 30 years at the same company. That's when I realized how much my parents' warning had cost me. All those years of being afraid to talk to strangers had delayed my social development by decades. I could have been building these skills since childhood instead of starting from scratch in college. The irony is that talking to strangers became my career. I'm now a regional sales manager for a software company. I travel constantly, meeting new clients, building relationships with people I've never met before. I make 6 figures doing exactly what my parents spent 18 years telling me would get me killed. Last month, I was at a conference in Denver when this older woman at the hotel bar started chatting with me. Normally, I would have made polite conversation and moved on, but something about her seemed familiar. Turns out she was the mother of my college roommate, Chris, the same guy who first explained to me that being afraid of strangers was ridiculous. She remembered me from graduation and said Chris always credited our freshman year conversations with helping him become more outgoing too. We talked for 2 hours about life, careers, and family. She gave me business advice that ended up helping me land my biggest client ever. If I'd followed my parents' rules, I would have avoided that conversation entirely and missed out on a career-changing opportunity. My parents still don't really understand my job. When I tell them I spent the day meeting with potential clients I'd never spoken to before, they get nervous. They think I'm taking unnecessary risks by building my career around stranger interactions. But here's what they never understood. The biggest risk isn't talking to strangers. It's isolating yourself so completely that you miss out on all the amazing opportunities that come from human connection. Their dire warning about stranger danger wasn't just wrong, it was actively harmful. It took me years to overcome the social anxiety they'd programmed into me from childhood. Now I teach my own kids the opposite lesson. Be cautious and use common sense, but don't be afraid to meet new people. Some of the best opportunities in life come from conversations with strangers.